Exclusions and rebate details through 3/31/13.
825, 98.7 WFGR. Coming up Sunday at Devos Hall is going to be Rain, the Beatles experience. It's supposed to be one of the top Beatles tributes worldwide, and we're lucky enough to have Jimmy Pou, who plays George Harrison, on the show. He's on the phone with us. Hey, Jimmy, good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Or should we say George?
Yeah,
which is it?
You can call me George, but I usually go by Jimmy.
You go by Jimmy. You're coming into town with this incredible tribute act called Rain that's a tribute to the Beatles. Talk a little bit, Jimmy, about how this act came together and you know, how to get started.
Well, the original show, Rain, actually was just a nightclub act back in 1975, and I went to go see the original guys, and I thought, wow, what a cool idea, guys dressing up as the Beatles and doing a tribute to the Beatles. And it just progressed into playing in dinner theaters and big theaters and arenas, and it's become a Broadway show. And what we started incorporating was multimedia and costume changes. So it's basically a whole history of the Beatles' career, from beginning with the Ed Sullivan Show in the black suits and playing the early songs like She Loves You and I Want to Hold Your Hand. And then we changed costumes into going into the Sgt. Pepper era all the way out to Let It Be. And while this is going on, there's multimedia in the background going on the screens depicting all the events that were going on during the 60s while these songs were popular.
So it sounds like it's quite an experience, and it's something that's grown over the years. You leave out the Hamburg years?
Yeah, we leave out the Hamburg years because, you know, I mean, let's face it, the first time people in America really ever saw the Beatles it was on the Ed Sullivan Show on February 9th, 1964. I remember like it happened yesterday.
I kind of figured you'd cut out the German years because you didn't want people throwing beer bottles and stuff at you. Yeah, we leave out the Hamburg stuff because that was pretty crazy days. Actually, those were the days when the Beatles went over to Hamburg, Germany, and they really became a really tight band because they were playing like 6 or 7 sets a night, and you know, just naturally after playing so many times, you know, it's like any other, like a sport or anything, you get really good at it. Yeah.
Now, Jimmy, as George Harrison, do you get to launch into any of George's solo stuff, or is this just exclusively old Beatles tunes, or do you guys do anything from like John solos to George's to
Paul
Paul's?
McCartney and all that?
No, it's just basically the Beatles, because it's called a tribute to the Beatles. So if we were to do the solo stuff, we'd run into like a 3-hour show.
Right.
So we do a 2-hour show. We incorporate not just some of the hits, but some of the obscure songs that real Beatle fans will, love hearing. And we do a lot of songs that the Beatles actually never performed live, because we have a fifth member. His name is Chris Smallwood, and he plays all the orchestrations. Like, so when we do Strawberry Fields, on the records, there's a lot of horns and strings.
Yeah.
We do Eleanor Rigby, and he plays all the string parts.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Now, you guys are, there's quite a few Beatles acts, tribute acts out there. Have you gone to see any of the other ones? Do you compare notes with them? Do you share stories and any of that kind of stuff?
Well, after all these years of us doing, basically a lot of the guys that are in Rain today, a lot of them were in the original Broadway show Beatlemania, as I was too. So back then there was only like maybe 5 or 6 Beatle groups put together for that show, and it's mushroomed into a thing where like you can go into any town and like there might be 7 or 8 Walmarts. There's 7 or 8 Beatles tributes. And yes, I've seen a lot of them. A lot of them are my friends. A lot of them I go, gee, those guys are giving the Beatles a bad name because they're not really great musicians. But I mean, hey, everybody loves the Beatles, and as long as you're playing Beatles music, a lot of people will just go to see it just to hear the Beatles songs, whether they're performed well or not. But Rain is definitely at the top of the list, and I'm very proud to be with them because it's the top of the cream of the crop as far as the performances. I mean, we rehearse every single day before the show. We go over parts to make sure that everything's exactly like the records, because people basically are coming to see the Beatles. They're not coming to see your interpretation of what the Beatles would have sounded like. They want to hear the exact parts that were on the records.
All right, now here's the 75-cent question. Did you ever get to see the Beatles live?
No, I met George Harrison back in 1991 when he was doing the Traveling Wilburys. I met him in L.A. because I live in Los Angeles, California. I met Ringo Starr in London when I was performing with the show Beatlemania, and I met George Martin, who was really funny. He was actually standing in line to buy tickets to our show.
No kidding.
Yeah, and I walked out to the line, and there he was. I thought, oh my gosh, that's George Martin. I walked up to him. I go, Mr. Martin, are you really buying tickets for our show? And he goes, you must play George. And so I got him on the guest list.
You know what? Take the money.
There you
Seriously,
go.
Don't put him, why give out a freebie if he's going to pay? Take it.
Well, he is George Martin. After all.
True.
You know,
all right.
The Beatles, finished writing some of their songs. He played on a lot of their records. He produced all their records. So.
Yeah.
So as far as the Beatles go, George Harrison is pretty much known as the nicest Beatle. I mean, you got Paul, but the most down-to-earth guy was always viewed, people usually viewed George Harrison as that guy. How was he when you met him?
He was a really nice guy, kind of quiet, very humble, and I walked up to him. I just said, I just want to tell you, you're the reason I became a musician after seeing you guys on the Ed Sullivan Show. And he just said, oh, thank you very much.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
Well, we're looking forward to the show, Jimmy, and let me throw a little tidbit out there for you. If people want to get tickets and maybe snap up a little discount, if they use the promo code LOVE to order their tickets online, and we'll put the link up and all that stuff, but if they use the promo code LOVE, you get about half off a ticket for the big show coming up at Devos Hall. We appreciate you taking the time to say hi today.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing my friends in Grand Rapids. I have a lot of friends there, so I'll let you come to the show.
All right.
Excellent.
Thanks so much, Jimmy. Take good care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
How about that?